Hello, my name is Sarah, founder of The Power of Our Story, and I am here tonight with a few more of our authors in a round two in sharing some of the main takeaways from their stories. They're going from trauma, going from wounds to wisdom. So, again, this is part of a collaborative effort. 29 authors who are all different types of work as a protector, and they're sharing their stories to give other people hope so that other protectors who are suffering in silence will realize that they don't have to anymore. So I want to thank our authors for coming on, and I would like to introduce Daniel Torres. He'll be our first author to share. Daniel?
Yes, hello. Daniel Torres here in the great state of Arizona. And what I learned after 35 years of being in the profession of arms and in the service of protecting life, limb, eyesight, and property, I learned that it is okay to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is a strength. It is not a weakness, and it actually feeds my resilience. I also learned that it's very important at being vulnerable to lose the persona of your title, your rank, your position, or your specialty, whatever that may be. I was uh, fortunate enough to be able to go to the U.S. Army Ranger School when I was a young soldier in the U.S. Army. And after I graduated, I was Ranger Torres from there on out. And it wasn't until I was able to lose the persona of Ranger Torres and just be Daniel that it allowed me to be vulnerable again, which I now use as my strength, and it feeds my resilience. So anyone that's out there, you're feeling that you have a persona that you're living by because of your rank, duty, position, or specialty, it's okay to lose that persona, be yourself, and it's definitely okay to ask for support.
Daniel, thank you so much for sharing. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thank you.
The next person I'd like to introduce is Chaplain Todd Stewart. Chappie?
Good evening. In the previous session, I talked about crisis of identity. This time, I'm going to talk about what really ended up being the overall theme of my chapter in Wounds to Wisdom, and that is, whether we know it or not at the time, our suffering has purpose. After having to suddenly leave the fire department because of injury, my post-traumatic stress took on a dimension that really you can't imagine. And I spent literally decades suffering with this affliction. And as a Christian, I had this misguided belief that due to my failures, that this suffering that I was going through was God punishing me. And I lived with this belief for a very long time, and it permeated every part of my life. And it produced guilt and shame that kept me from seeking out the kind of help and human connection that would have assisted me with recovering from that suffering. And it wasn't until after I started therapy in 2020 and I achieved what I call an emotional equinox, where I was spending at least as much time in the light that I was in the dark. And I was having a conversation with a gentleman that was a chaplain with the New York State Chaplains Task Force. And after this conversation, where he spoke to me about how I could use the experience that I had been through to serve others, I had this lightning flash of epiphany that the years and years and years that I had spent in suffering was not punishment at all. What it was God equipping me for a calling that was a complete mystery to me at the time. And so what I want people to understand who read my chapter in the book is that the suffering that you're going through has a purpose. You may not know what that purpose is. You don't know what God's plan is for you. But in his time, God will reveal that purpose to you and provide you with a calling that will change your life for the better.
Thank you, Chappie. Appreciate you sharing.
So I'm Jim Lyden, and I spent 40 years working in the California Fire Service. And in the book, you're going to read my story of the journey from a 16-year-old child to someone who rose to the highest ranks within the organization, and the challenges along the way. And they weren't just challenges in the job. They were challenges on my own side with physical issues. I ended up at one point, having some health issues that impacted my thought process on where my career might go. But I was able to tap into what I came to discover much later in life was a sense of resiliency that had been modeled by my parents through their challenges throughout life. The key, though, I think for me was the realization that my career had taken its turn to the point where it was time to move on. And that wasn't that I hadn't been successful or any of that type of thing. It was where I came to this realization that my purpose in life, to look beyond self and help others be better, was no longer being fulfilled in my job. I was being challenged by bureaucracy and all of that type of stuff that precluded me from being able to do just that. And I think, being able to recognize that time in your career where you either need to change organizations, change professions, change whatever life situation it is, so that you can actually get up every day and hit the ground running with a purpose that supports you personally. If you're stuck in a job where you're working towards someone else's purpose that's not aligned with what you truly believe or what you believe is your personal purpose, you really need to take that moment to step back, make that change, look for something else. And it's not a loss, it's not a failure. It's just that particular part of your career has run its path, and it's time to move on with something else that, as a good friend of mine said, why do you get out of bed every day? And if you're not getting out of bed every day to do something that serves you, serves your purpose, you really need to look for a change. And that's where I reached in my career. And I feel that today, through this book, through other things that I'm doing, that I am truly able to do that, look beyond self, and help others be better.
Thank you, Jim. Well said. Appreciate it. And then we'd like to end with Barry Zwarnstein.
Thanks, Sarah. When I came out the Rhodesian Bush War in 1977, I actually remained quite silent for over 35, 40 years. I didn't have the words to describe what I experienced, and the experience then impacted on my life and the journey forward. And then when I began working with veterans in 2002, and I slowly realized that we all struggle with the same thing. We struggle to word our experiences for two reasons, I think. The one is grief, and the other one is we're really not sure how the other person is going to receive it. And I found that in working with veterans here in Australia for the past 22 years, I wanted to create something that acted as a bridge between them and their families or friends or whoever it might be, or parents. And so I wrote this letter that they could adjust and adapt and hand it over to the person that they wanted to connect with. And by doing that, it created a bridge to what could not be spoken and made visible the possibility of change and healing. So just thanks to Sarah for allowing me the opportunity to read this letter tonight. And it goes, even though too much of where I've been and what I've seen cannot be spoken, and even though my present feels like such a struggle at times, both for you and me, I remain a proud veteran who still believes in loyalty and who is willing to put my life on the line for others. Many times it felt as if my brain remained on the battlefield. The sound of a car backfiring became the enemy coming in contact with me. Hitting the ground may have been a joke to you and others, but it was life and death to me. The flashbacks felt too real, and every corner was a potential ambush. I know that insisting that I sit in restaurants with my back against the wall was difficult for you to really understand, or that trying to talk to me in a shopping center when I was scanning everyone walking past was irritating. I know that at times you felt that after all these years, I should have moved on. I wish things were that simple, as I was desperate to move on. But every day was another day at war, of being vigilant and of struggling with depression, stress, anxiety, grief, and trauma. For me, there has been no escape. My nights are full of nightmares, and my days find me wanting to escape to safety and silence. I've not given the best of myself to you all, and I've never rested well with this. I know you've struggled with the bonds I still have with the soldiers I served, and that at times this bond has felt more connected than the bond I have with you. I know you felt frustrated by my refusal to talk about that time of my life. It's not that I don't want to share, it's that I can't. There are things I've never talked about and that haunt me every day of my life. These are memories that I don't even share with other veterans. But I also have memories that I can't share with anyone who hasn't been there. I've tried to talk to civilians in the past, but the look in their eyes showed me how complex, in fact impossible, it was for them to understand me. I know my silence has hurt you, and for that I am sorry. It isn't personal. I know you've said that you are willing to listen, and I've been grateful for that, but these are stories I cannot share with you. Please understand. At times, it feels as if I have a room full of memories that I've locked away, not only from others, but from myself. They still affect my mood, sleep, and ability to connect with others. But I know and feel that my deepest fear is that if I ever began to open this box, I wouldn't be able to control what would come out. It's hard enough just dealing with the surface of it all. I promise you that I will do whatever it takes to become a better partner, parent, and friend. I know the ways I've tried to cope with the memories and experiences haven't always served me and others well. I am willing to look at what I can do to heal and find more peace. Please try not to judge or push me into change. It's hard enough for me to begin to open up to my suffering, grief, and anger. My moods have never been easy for you. I have times when I feel on edge for no apparent reason or feel down. Again, this is not personal. What I need is some time and space just to be alone to catch my breath. I am grateful for the years in which you've stood by me and done your very best to support me even when I behaved in ways that made life difficult for you. They say there's no such thing as an unwounded warrior. We were young then and we felt immortal. We never understood the price we would eventually pay for everything we did, saw, and experienced. Age has not diminished the pain. If anything, the pain has only become more intense, but I am willing to change. Thanks.
Barry, thank you so much for that. I think that just says so much. And I think for anybody who is watching this, I hope if you're not familiar with veterans or first responders, I hope this gives you a taste of the courage that they have, the challenges that come with this kind of job. And this is a way that we can protect our protectors for signing on that line or facing trauma every day, like first responders and veterans. So it is an honor to be on this platform. It's an honor to help get these stories and voices out because our protectors deserve it. So I want to thank you all so much for sharing your stories, Barry, for sharing the letter that was so profound. And thank you all for watching.